Hello and welcome to the Center for Self-Balance. This is Joseph Noecker. We're going to continue on today talking a little bit more about the ego and how the ego affects us in all the, it's not a terrible thing, but it doesn't affect us in quality ways many times. Doesn't mean we don't get enjoyable experiences from our ego, but it gets in the way more than we wish. So I want to start off with a quote by somebody pretty famous, Stephen Hawking, on genius. And his quote was, "Real genius is radical humility." Real genius. Now this is from a person that many people feel is one of the geniuses of our generation. And so this is one of the geniuses of our generation telling us that radical humility is truly what real genius is. And I want to spend a little bit of time on that because it relates to the ego very well in terms of that. So the ego, by its very nature, is always trying to separate, divide, compare, contrast, as we've talked about in one of the past videos, or maybe two of the past videos, we've hit that. So it's always trying to chop up and make something tangible, limited, compared, and contrasted. Humility, on the other hand, which we wouldn't necessarily always associate them, but when I'm in a state of humility, my ego has now laid over on the side. And the ego is now not a part of it. I'm not allowing the ego to be a part of it. I'm allowing myself to be completely not in the know and being in a state of eternal curiosity and presence of what is actually happening. Okay, so you can feel the difference in the ego likes to go scarce. Humility allows me to go broad and large and stay open. Now, where's the place for the other stuff, our thoughts and our feelings? Well, our thoughts and our feelings and our sensations, all that is very important, but they become a lot more valuable once I've cleared the space in a space of humility. If the ego is involved and I start to interpret my sensations, my thoughts, then my ego will oftentimes connect to it. Say, for example, again, I think I've used an example in the past that somebody says something. If my ego is still present and says something that I don't really understand, if my ego is unsure of this, or I'm feeling a little unsure about myself, or I'm feeling a little unsure if I really trust the motives of this person, the ego will wrap something around that comment and will basically taint this piece of presence into, what did I do wrong? Well, when did he get mad at me? Why is she talking to me that way? Where that really has not come into play if I'm in a state of humility. If I'm in a state of clarity in the presence, then I'm in a state of curiosity. So I'm more apt to be able to be curious of that seemed different than a normal response. So it puts me in a state of curiosity, which I can now find out more. And I think that's part of what Hawking was referring to, is staying in that state of humility allows me to be eternally curious, and most importantly, to keep on learning, not only about others, but mostly about ourselves. And that comes in the form of our feelings, questioning, being open to what we're feeling at that particular moment. What our thoughts are. Why is this thought? Why is this thought racing through my mind? Instead of the ego having hold of it, saying, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing that? I get curious. It's like, why is this thought? I wonder why this thought is repeating in my mind. And so it keeps us in a state of where we continue to learn and gain more and more insight into ourselves, others, our world, etc., etc. So what we're doing here is we're trying to create this state of presence, and most of us can relate seeing a baby or an infant laying in a crib, completely with a smile. They don't have to be laughing, but they're just this complete look of pleasantness and joy in their face. And in that space, I think I had a conversation with somebody recently that we were talking, it's like we're really looking into our potential right there. which is what makes babies and puppies and kittens and innocent beings that we look at so innocent. We're looking at our potential right in their face. And we oftentimes we stop there. The ego will say, well, that's the baby. I wish I was like that again. Or I wish I was like could have all day to play like the kitten gets to play. And that, but in reality, we are that. It's just been covered up by what the ego demands have been, what we say are the adult demands or the responsibility demands. And I'm not criticizing any of that. That's all good stuff. But it doesn't have anything to do with my self-development. So let's all take a message from Stephen today and practice some radical humility. I'm Joseph Noecker, Center for Self-Balance. See you next time.